Hi, everyone. We're back with a new episode of With Love Soleil. And I wanted to go a little deeper into something I posted the other day that seemed to land with a lot of people. And I thought it would be helpful for me to expand on it a little bit. So, what I said was that healing is reverse engineering yourself into who you were designed to be. So when I talk about this, I'm going to interchange healing and awakening a little bit, because to me, and in the context of where I'm going with this, they're kind of the same thing. If we think about healing, what it is, it's clearing out the tendencies, the habits, the ways that you exist in the world, the ways that you relate to yourself that don't actually align with who you really are. And we all have this, right? Like we all have life experience, and therefore, ways that we exist that may not fully represent who we truly are. And so the work then, and much of the work on the awakening path and on the conscious path, is to begin to recognize the ways that we're separate from our truest selves. It's the reverse engineering back to the home frequency of being who you really are. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And I think that's why a lot of people shy away from this work, because you do have to go into the depths of yourself. You do have to be willing to revisit uncomfortable experiences, that things that has happened in your life wherein you have been sort of born a new timeline from that experience. That's not necessarily a fun thing to think about or revisit or feel your way back into. But that's the key right there, really, is feeling your way through the things that have happened to you. And I think the more you do that in sort of a spiritual review, so to speak, in other words, sitting down and feeling through the experiences that have happened to you and who you became as a result of that experience. And is that person aligned with who you really are? And if not, shifting, changing, transmuting, alchemizing the ways that you exist now that don't align with who you really are. But just even sit down with yourself in that way is brave. It takes courage. Most people are not sitting down and being like, let me dive into the depths of my human experience. Let me review the things that have happened to me and decide if the person I become as a result of those experiences really represents who I am or not. So if you're doing that work at all, kudos to you. But what happens over time, once you do that enough times, is you start to kind of be able to do that in real time. This is sort of the work of the alchemist in a way, or the work of the conscious or awakened person, is recognizing when you're in experiences wherein, say, your defense mechanism comes up. Say, for example, you've been hurt in love, right? You've had your heart broken. We probably all have had our heart broken. And as a result, there are many people who are very defensive to love, or when they start to feel that sort of deep sense of intimacy or vulnerability or connection, they put a defense up, they put a wall up because they've been hurt before, and having opened themselves in that way to someone else ended up in a heartbreak and a tragedy. And therefore, they're not going down that path again, which, if you look at it, right, I mean, there's a lot of people who feel that way, whether or not they're conscious of that, or that they put walls up to certain depths of connection, whether or not they're conscious of that. And that's why this work is so important, because love is the fundamental. Love is the one thing you should always remain open to, even if love has hurt you in the past. And I put love in quotes there because, true, unconditional, deep, divine love is not what we really think of as love in our society, right? Like what most people have experienced as love, and especially then through a heartbreak and say they were wronged or whatever it is, whatever's happened in the name of or under the umbrella of love. Maybe that wasn't even really love, maybe that was a lesson. Maybe that person was sent to you to expand you in some capacity or teach you this difficult experience or whatever it is, But naming that love and then putting a wall up to love is going to really do you a disservice your whole life. And so that's one example of the ways that we are shaped and shifted by our life experiences. And then we become someone who's not true to who we really are. I would argue that I want to say all, and I hate saying all because I really don't believe many things apply to every single person, but I do believe we're all born in love. We're born as a loving being, right? Like babies, they want love. Like love is such a fundamental need when you're a very small individual, when you're just starting out. It's one of your few needs, one of the few things that can really pacify you and feed you and offer you the support that you need in those moments of crying or whatever. So to block yourself from love does you such a major disservice. It really does. Not only that, but being open to love and being in love and then being love, right? Like all of the layers and dimensions of love that are possible all get blocked off when you decide like love equals bad, no love. You're really, really doing yourself a disservice. So again, this is one example of how we want to be really aware of our tendencies and how we're keeping ourselves from just living our best lives. Like keeping yourself from love is always going to prevent you from living your most fullest expression in your most fullest life. That's just how that's going to go. Because deep connection, deep intimacy, vulnerability, the layers and levels that only come with a sense of safety and a sense of love, when you don't ever even go there at all because you've been hurt before, you're selling yourself short. So that's one example. And so where I'm going with this is that over time, as you start to realize, gosh, yeah, I really do that. I have a wall up to love, or when I feel too close to someone, I totally push them away, or all of these ways that we exist. And it's okay. You know, we all do this. It's not like to sit here and judge yourself and have like a rap sheet of like what you're doing wrong. We all have ways that life has shaped us into someone that's maybe not going to benefit our best version. So the work right now and what I'm offering you in this reverse engineering back to yourself and the healing and the awakening process is to just become aware. Awareness is, an awakening is awareness of self. It's the recognition of how you exist in the world. Are you showing up as your fullest, most complete, most total, most vibrant self? And if not, that's okay. Most people are probably not. It takes a lot of work to come back to that version of you. It takes the undoing of these tendencies and these habits wherein we keep ourselves from love. We keep ourselves from joy, right? That's another one. It's like if you've been, say, in a family environment where you were like this joyful, happy kid, and you didn't have joyful, happy people around you. And so your joy was always kind of squandered or stuffed or quieted. So you learned over time not to be in your joy because it was going to be stuffed or squandered or quieted. Then now all of a sudden you're out here stuffing, squandering, and quieting your own joy. And we don't even realize these kinds of things happen until we really sit and look at it. Like, wow, that was so true for me. Now I really literally do that to myself because it's a learned behavior and a learned pattern. So the process of healing, the process of awakening is reverse engineering these habits and patterns, relieving ourselves from these ways that we dismiss our highest self, our best life, and reclaiming the truths of joy, the truths of love, the fundamental truths of our existence. That's what this is all about. So I invite you to do that, in your spare time. So what I do in my spare time, it's ridiculous. I do invite you to do it in your spare time when that's right for you, in a meditation. And, to me, meditation and energy work go kind of hand in hand, because what happens in meditation when you sit with yourself is these opportunities to reveal yourself more will come up. And I love that I've just reframed it in that way, because it's not a pleasant thing. It's literally that an experience will come up that you just realize has kept you from joy or kept you from love your whole life. And so now you're like looking at it again and realizing like, oh my gosh, I totally now am a person who blocks love out of my life. And that's why I can't find a relationship, right? Like there's so many like breadcrumbs you find in meditation. And then what happens is kind of simultaneously, you're doing the inner alchemy, the inner energy work to clear that tendency, that rub, or that defense mechanism that you have up against love. And then suddenly you're free to love again. Suddenly you're free to be in your full joy, no matter who's around, no matter what anybody has to say about it. Like there's so much power to reclaim on this path, and that's the reverse engineering back to yourself, because your true self is full, fundamental power. Your full self knows who they are. They don't care what anybody has to say about it. They know their connection to more than themselves, God, their spiritual mission, their divine assignment. They know why they're here. They know their purpose. And they're going to walk that path. They're going to stay in their lane. They're going to find their pace, and they're going to live life on their terms. And that's possible for every single person. It is. No matter what the matrix wants to tell you or they have to say about it, it's possible for every person. And because the thing is, we don't rely on any matrix ideologies to do this work. You literally need just a place to sit down and quiet. That's why it's so challenging for me, because I know how accessible this work is. And yet still most people are not doing it, because they're certainly not going to put it on the news to say, hey, let's take a meditation break, sit down, go through an experience. Where are you blocking love? Like, no, they're not doing that. But we are. We're doing it. We're collapsing the timelines. We're clearing out the tendencies that aren't working. We're relieving ourselves of the pieces and parts of ourselves that are not who we actually are. We're really doing this work. If you're watching this video, you're probably on that path in some capacity, because if so, then that's probably how you found me. So the next piece of it, after, you know, maybe taking your meditations and going through your meditation journey and doing kind of the inner work, is recognizing it in real time. Recognizing, oh, this is one of those moments where I'm blocking love. I feel very close to this person. And so my wall is up. You know, can you take a little pause and take it down a little bit? You know, it's a little bit at a time. You don't necessarily collapse the whole timeline in a second, but you recognize that it's happening. And then you do the work to reduce the tendency that you don't want in real time. So that's kind of the next step. And then eventually it all kind of just comes together where you realize, you know, an experience has happened to you, and you're kind of hyper vigilant on ensuring that it doesn't cause you to become someone you don't want to be. Because there's a lot of people, I think, who even think they're like fighting the bad or out here kind of, you know, heavy, full charge ahead against X, Y, and Z, you know, whatever we're mad at. And oftentimes they end up becoming it. It's like the craziest part of people who really mean well and really are out here like with a purpose and a cause, and don't even recognize that like they're mad at these people for being bad people, and suddenly they're doing the same tearing down and name calling and all these other things that they're mad at the bad people for doing. So the work is to clear out any need to like fall into the structure of this crazy world, and to build a new one where we exist as our full selves. Our purpose is to be ourselves, to figure out what that means, to collapse the timelines and the ways that we exist that don't work, that don't support us, that don't serve our ultimate fundamental brilliance, and then to exist in the world in that way. It is extremely disruptive for people when you're in your full power. So this is not easy work, not only because you have to go through the levels and layers and experiences of yourself, but also because you go out into the world and you're just this big volume and people don't know what to do with it. So I like the term disruptors for those of us who are like willing to turn our volume up and to figure out what I'm talking about, what this means for you specifically, because you disrupt the norm, you disrupt the flow of unconsciousness that most of the world lives in. We're not here to live unconsciously anymore. We've done that for a very long time. We've let the powers that be run the show, the highly dysfunctional write the narrative. And now we're like, you know what, we're going to do it differently. We don't even have to fight you for it. We're just going to build the new, and may the best man win. I think that's what it comes down to, is instead of fighting the old, we build the new. This is what the new paradigm is about. And it starts with each one of us building ourselves, remembering ourselves, revealing who we really are, letting go of these old patterns, these old tendencies, the stuff that's not serving us, the stuff that keeps us from the fundamental truths of joy and love and connection and self, from home frequency. And then we build a new world from there, from like the true reverberation of your own divine self-experience. So as I'm talking about this, maybe there are some things that you're already kind of identifying. We usually can do that. And so I invite you to just become more and more and more and more and more aware of them until one day they don't exist at all. And it's absolutely possible. That's the whole reverse engineering, right? A healing awakening is reverse engineering back to the you that existed before this experience, wherein you pivoted to become someone who was defensive against love, or you pivoted to become someone who quieted your own joy. We're going to reverse the pivot back to you being full-blown joy, full-blown love, full-blown yourself, recognizing the importance of you being yourself in this time, in this space, and on this planet. So please let me know if you have any questions about this work. I promise you guys, I'm going to start dropping some meditations on here for stuff like this, because I know it can be helpful to have a guide walk you through this kind of work. And I'm happy to do that for you. I also have a meditation masterclass dropping next month, April. So be on the lookout for that. But do let me know if you have questions, if this landed with you, what you're thinking about this. And let's go, you guys. The world is ours. Much love.